Our Behavioral and Social Science Department organizing this for the second year in close cooperation with Earth Justice. In fact, Earth Justice is a very much underwriter of this. Without them, it won't be possible to be done. And we hope to continue this tradition, so count on us next February. We'll be here back again. But I'm going to let you announce everybody, and so we can go on with the second panel.
Thank you, Mirza. Welcome, everybody. So we're here for the second annual Environmental Justice Fair and Symposium. We're dedicated this year to food justice. I'm Laura Arroyo. I work as a staff attorney for the Healthy Communities Program on Earth Justice. We have a Florida Regional Office, one in Tallahassee and one in Miami. Earth Justice is a non-profit public interest law firm dedicated to protect magnificent places, natural resources, wildlife of this earth, and to defend the right of all people to have a healthy environment. We bring our far-reaching change by enforcing and spreading environmental laws on behalf of hundreds of organizations and communities. So we would like to start by introducing our moderator, Samantha Jacob. Samantha is a third-year law student in Environmental and Land Use Law program at the University of Florida College of Law. There she focuses on land use, environmental climate gentrification, and sustainable mindful development. Before beginning her tenure at law school, she spent a majority of her career working for Miami-Dade County as a legislative aide for the chairman of the board of the county commissioners. There, she specialized in all things environmental, land use, zoning, development, and community planning. During her time in law school, she has interned for James Murley and the Miami-Dade County Office of Resilience and Earth Justice. Samantha also worked for the University of Florida Conservation Clinic, where she assisted a client in the drafting of an amendment to the City of Gainesville Comprehensive Plan to allow for urban farming, particularly in the Grove Street neighborhood, a historically black and impoverished area. She also provided the client with extensive research concerning community land trusts and how they can be used to combat displacement. Last year, Samantha was hired on as a research assistant for the director of the Environmental and Law Use Law program at UF Law. As an RA, she worked to research water law and policy in Haiti, as well as water law for different regions in the United States. She concluded her research by attending and speaking at the Water Law and Policy Summit held in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. In 2015, Samantha assisted in the formulation of Foundation to Fame, a 501c3 nonprofit agency dedicated to the empowerment of Miami-Dade County's youth. She maintains her position as the secretary of the 501c3 and a member of the board of directors. So Samantha, take it away to our second panel, the right taken for granted.
Hi everyone. I'm going to start by introducing Marty Mesh. He's going to be our first panelist today to do his presentation. Marty Mesh is a visionary, pioneer, and expert in organic agriculture and food systems. He began growing organically in 1972. In 76, he started Gardens Organic Farms, and in 87, he co-founded the Florida Organic Growers and Quality Certification Services and served as its executive director for over 30 years. He has helped start and served on boards of many organizations, including but not limited to the Organic Trade Association, the Organic Certifiers Council, Southern Sustainable Agriculture Working Group, Accredited Certifiers Association, Organic Materials Review Institute, the National Campaign for Sustainable Agriculture, now known as the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, the Agricultural Justice Project, the Organic Center, and many others. In addition to education, policy, and food system work locally, nationwide, and globally, he has collaborated with his wife on several educational and training video projects for organic farmers with her media company, Little Bean Productions, which if you're staying for our lunch panel, you'll get to see some of their work. He was also named one of the most influential people who developed the organic industry. His goal is to help grow organic agriculture and more socially just food systems while helping heal the planet. Please help me in welcoming Marty Mesh.
Howdy, can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right, good. So, you know, one thing, I'm grateful for the invitation to join y'all and speak, and this panel on making sure that everybody has hopefully access to good, healthy food is something that I've been passionate about. But just to give you, I didn't make a PowerPoint thing with pictures and slides, but I can tell you a couple things that I've been involved in creating, both in running the nonprofit, but even going back as a Boy Scout to collecting food for people that were hungry, you know, food donations, starting in high school, a breakfast program in South Dallas for disadvantaged kids that were coming to school hungry from South Dallas. And so people thought I was crazy there about, you know, why as a high school student are you having your mom take you to South Dallas to start a breakfast program for kids that need it. And then when I moved to, you know, I left the country, came back. When I left the country, the spark of organic production, I'll never farm this way again as far as using agrochemicals. There's got to be a better way. When I came back to this country, you know, I started growing organically and giving away food, bags of food. That led to then forming the Duck Pond Co-op to try to aggregate the way people purchase food. If we could buy it together, we could all have healthier food in a more cost-efficient manner. In Bellevue Gardens Organic Farm that I started in 1976, we dictated prices. What we told Publix back then, it was, we'll sell you a watermelon for $3. You sell it for $4.49, you're gonna make 50%, or they have a different cost calculation. We'll sell you a cantaloupe for $1, you sell it for $1.49. If you refuse to follow our pricing, then we won't sell it to you at all. And what we guarantee you is, if you sell people good, healthy, organic food that's delicious, it'll fly off the shelf. And in fact, if it doesn't fly off the shelf, we'll replace it for free. So you have no risk at all. It's either gonna sell at a fair price, you guys will make money, and people will be able to enjoy good, healthy, organic food for a reasonable price. We certainly lost that ability to dictate prices the longer supply chains got in this country. You know, when our watermelons were on the shelves of New York City or San Francisco, people would call and go, man, I saw y'all's watermelons for $22 in New York City, or this, that, or the other. And so we realized that the longer the supply chains were, the less ability we had to dictate prices and control prices and food access. We started a nonprofit organization, Florida Certified Organic Growers and Consumers, as farmers in 1987, and that was coming out of the 85 farm crisis. What we thought then was that if we don't, you have to realize in the 85 farm crisis, thousands of people were going bankrupt, thousands of farmers every week. That's thousands of farmers were losing their farms and going bankrupt every week. So we thought as growers, if we don't change this, we're all going to be extinct. And so Florida Certified Organic Growers and Consumers, it was really formed to say, how do we strive to have direct links between growers, us, and consumers, the people eating food. So out of that came, you saw the proliferation of farmers markets in the 90s and that kind of ways for direct marketing help. And then we started with the nonprofit. We were able to write some grants and do some projects that were passionate to our value system. And that Neighborhood Nutrition Network was born, that did gleaning, harvesting leftover crops and farmers' fields that were going to waste, and making sure they got distributed for free to low-income people and people in need. We started community gardens in Gainesville, which I was really interested to hear. We did school gardens. We wrote a school garden curriculum for the state of Florida, Sunshine State Standards, which, by the way, you know, at that point in time, putting gardens in the schools to say we need to teach the next generation, you know, where food comes from and be involved themselves and the joy of growing some food. What we heard then was, hey, you know, my grandfather was a slave, and I don't want my kid being with his or her hands in the dirt. My kid will never be with their hands in the dirt. And it came from well-intentioned parents concerned about the institutional legacy of slavery and what their families had gone through. Once the Obamas came into being, and we said at that point, that's why we wrote a school garden curriculum, because what we said was, no, we don't want to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, and gardening. We want to use gardening and the ability to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I can tell you the success stories that we had in that when teachers utilized gardens in their lessons plans. And so that's why we wrote the statewide curriculum. We did nutrition education. We provided a youth food and farm preservation project to work with at-risk kids in growing food and then processing it in cooperation with the Institute of Culinary Arts at a high school, and then trying to teach the kids business skills, life skills. If you're not going to be at work, call, okay? That's really important. Let's teach basic life skills that will help you once you get out of school. And then we started a program called Gift Gardens, Gainesville Initiative for Tasty Gardens, Gift Gardens, where we figured, we were doing gleaning, we were doing food recovery, but what we figured was the most easy way to ensure people had direct access to healthy food was to help them grow right outside their front or back door. So Gift Gardens was our attempt to do that. We installed, hundreds and hundreds of gardens throughout Gainesville and raised bed organic gardens for people in need of it. And we started Porter's Community Farm, which you talked about the Grove Street area, but Porter's is another low-income area in Gainesville where really it came from where train porters used to live. So it was Porter's Community Farm down near the old train station. Porter's Community Farm, then the food went to the homeless shelter out of that, and then was also made available. There were community garden plots of that, Porter's Community Farm for the community. And then right now we're working on a blueberry farm project, trying to see about 105 acres that's still within the city limits, where we had the Youth Food and Farm Preservation Project, how we could transform that into something of benefit for the southeast side of town, which in Gainesville, the southeast side is the poorest side of town, and how we can either do some entrepreneurship programs and or expand some food production there. We started many farmers markets to increase the direct sales, the direct links between growers and consumers in Florida. And then I'll say one thing that as a farmer in the 70s, I thought what happens in Washington, D.C. doesn't affect us. We're so friggin' far out on the fringe. They don't care about us, and we're just going to go do our organic farming, and we'll see what the marketplace will accept. And the marketplace kept saying, hey, we want your stuff, we want your stuff. And we kept getting bigger and bigger and growing. I also realized that what happens in Washington, D.C. totally affects whether or not a farm like ours is either viable or not viable, whether we're able to succeed or not able to succeed. What we as a country through agriculture policy either externalize, internalize, encourage, discourage really matters. And it certainly matters to farmers as you invest money and as you invest love and labor in growing crops. And so, I've been active in probably 6 farm bills. They occur about every 5 years in farm bills. And I've written stuff that have gotten in farm bills that I'm really proud of, that I think have done good things and worked on in coalitions and in policy efforts that most recently probably was responsible for FINI. And so FINI is the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program. And it was born in 2010. What we said in Alachua County, where Gainesville is that we want to put EBT in farmers markets so that low-income people can take their benefits, their SNAP benefits, and go to farmers markets and buy direct from farmers, which would benefit, of course, farmers, but also obviously benefit people that were buying fresh, healthy food directly from the farmer and forming relationships with the farmer as well. We got the county to go with us and subsidize or give us a little grant that we use to encourage and incentivize, so that if somebody went to a farmer's market and used $10 off their SNAP card, they got $20 worth of benefits at the market to spend on fresh. And trying to encourage how we make fresh, healthy produce more competitive, more available, and more attractive to low-income people, as opposed to what we perceived in the world as, you take SNAP benefits, you go down to either the local, sadly, the local liquor store, the local convenience store, whatever store is within a low-income neighborhood, because there aren't any grocery stores that are selling good, healthy food typically. There's convenience stores at high prices selling junk, highly processed, I prefer to just describe it as highly processed crap, that doesn't help nutrition. It facilitates ill health for people on SNAP, and it's a direct pipeline, of course, to Bentonville, Arkansas, where that's where the benefits are being reaped, the billions of dollars in SNAP benefits every year. So we got EBT at farmers markets in 2010 and 2012. We did it statewide through a specialty crop block grant with the state and started getting markets all around Florida. And in 2012, we got Finney in the Farm Bill. We wrote one of the first grants, and we got over 50 markets in our first Finney grant now. Feeding Florida has taken over that program now. It's called Fresh Access Bucks, but there's markets all around Florida, and also farm stands that are taking SNAP, accepting SNAP benefits, and then incentivizing those purchases of fresh fruits and vegetables. And then as far as policy, the last thing I'll close with, the importance of policy, and I was inspired hearing the introduction, because we worked on, I changed the chicken ordinance in Gainesville so that you could have chickens if you were in the city limits. That was because my kids were going, Dad, we want chickens, and what do you mean you can't have chickens? We're going to fix this. And then urban agriculture, what constitutes zoning? Yes, you can grow the food, but you can't sell it because this is zoned. You're not having commercial zoning. How we start to encourage urban agriculture. In this farm bill that was just passed, there is an urban agriculture, not a title, but a section, because Chairwoman Stabenow was the ranking member on the Senate side, was very passionate about urban agriculture and helping to support it. And then we wrote a GRU in Gainesville, a GRU. An ordinance that instructed the city commission, which they own Gainesville Regional Utilities, that if there's vacant land in Gainesville that's owned by GRU, then GRU has to make that land available for a community garden. If there's a group of citizens that come up and say this person or that person is the point person, so you have to designate somebody to be the point person, and GRU not only has to give the land for the community garden, they have to supply the water at no charge to the community garden. And so that's how we've tried to encourage some both policy improvements as well as program improvements within the city of Gainesville, Alachua County, and throughout the state.
So next I'm going to introduce, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. So next I'm going to introduce our two panelists from Urban GreenWorks, which is in Miami. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Miami area, but their garden is, I believe, in Liberty City. So first we have Roger Horne, and Roger is the co-founder and director of Community Health Initiatives. He graduated from Cornell University and has a master's in health administration and public health from the Medical College of Virginia at Virginia Commonwealth University. He has been an IFAS certified master gardener since 2011 and has served as the naturalist at the Green Urban Living Center on Miami-Dade College's North Campus. He is a member of the Consortium for a Healthier Miami-Dade, where he serves on 2 committees, serves on the board of Urban Environmental League of Greater Miami, and serves as a community board member at Barry University. He is currently the director of Community Health Initiatives for Urban GreenWorks, where he looks at the impact of food insecurity on population health. His work brings foodscapes, green spaces, and other environmental education, health, and wellness initiatives to youth and adults throughout South Florida. As part of his work at Urban GreenWorks, Roger has been the driving force behind their community food security initiative, bringing the first urban farm model to Liberty City, a USDA certified food desert, and creating hammocks in the hood. restoring the native ecoscapes of neglected inner city open spaces. His newest efforts, Pollinator Pathways and the 10-day Healthy Food Eating Challenge, look to support ecosystem restoration throughout Miami-Dade and encourage healthier lifestyles among residents in Miami's under-resourced communities. He helped establish the first farmers market in Liberty City and in Opa-locka, and his work with Miami's Food Policy Council prompted him to spearhead efforts to establish city guidelines and permitting for community-owned markets, community gardens, and urban agriculture. Roger developed a major partnership with Habitat for Humanity, creating residential edible gardens in backyards throughout Liberty City. He has worked to create partnerships with Barry University and other local universities to implement more research-based studies of urban GreenWorks projects and their relevance to the community, individual, and global health and wellness. He currently is working with Barry and other community partners to integrate the whole measures for community food system tools into his work at Urban GreenWorks so that we can collaboratively look beyond our specific missions and think in terms of the broadest possible picture for a healthy community. Prior to his current work in the field of community public health, Roger worked as a healthcare administrator, a consultant, and a project analyst for hospitals, community health centers, the Florida prison system, private physicians, as well as health insurers. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Anita as well.
I'm sorry for that long intro.
You've done a lot. So Anita, she is a manager at the urban farm at Urban GreenWorks. So if you guys ever go to visit, you'll likely see her there. She is a mother of 3, and she relocated to Miami after a few years struggling with drug addiction in New Jersey. After graduating from the Agape Urban GreenWorks Mustard Seed Project, a nationally recognized horticultural therapy program established in Miami by Urban GreenWorks, Anita interned at Cerasee Farms. There she learned how to manage an urban farm in a challenging, underserved neighborhood. Today, Anita is employed by Urban GreenWorks as a Cerasee Farm manager, the community-based food security program where Anita truly shines. She engages residents, supervises workshops and site tours, conducts hands-on activities, and establishes outreach opportunities within the community. She works with disabled veterans, the elderly, individuals on probation, and students of all ages. Anita also specializes in working with abused and victimized women and uses horticultural therapy as a way of impacting individual lives while building community health through food security. Please help me in welcoming Roger and Anita from Urban GreenWorks.
Professor from the school in New England. She came down and she just wanted to highlight some of the work we did, some of the things we did. Because she kept seeing a lot of people coming to Miami for vacation, just staying on the beach and they had no idea what was going on across the grid. So she just wanted to get some light to that. I'm not going to go through the entire video, but I'm just going to...
Stylish Art Deco architecture and luxury hotels. Tourists enjoy the beautiful beaches, outdoor dining, recreational opportunities, and the fun South Beach nightlife. It seems like paradise. Just over the causeway is another side of Miami that most visitors never see. The neighborhoods along the waterfront are booming with new offices and luxury condos under construction. Driving a little further west and north, we enter communities like Liberty City, where there isn't the same level of investment and prosperity. Because of the double whammy of low income and low access to fresh produce and whole foods, residents suffer high rates of diet-related diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure. At Cerasee Farm, community members, led by Roger Horne, are working hard to make a difference.
Today we're here at our urban farm project in Liberty City. The idea is to take unused lots, abandoned lots in the urban inner city, and get an acre's worth of lots to create an acre's urban farm in the city. I went to Cornell University, pre-med. I switched to medical sociology. Then I went to, I got a double master's at the Medical College of Virginia at VCU, one in public health, one in health administration. And I pretty much was in the healthcare industry for 10 years. Not a lot, but for me that's a long time. But I kind of tried to get a full spectrum knowledge of healthcare. So I got it from the public health perspective as from the for-profit private healthcare side as well. And my idea was to always merge the two disciplines and bring it into communities of need that needed healthcare benefits and so forth. Sadly, I was slapped to reality that that's not how healthcare works, and I came to the understanding that healthcare is just our second highest right now GNP item, and it's pretty much just a cost driver for the United States. And disgruntled after working with the prison health system in Florida City, I decided that I wanted to leave, and I started a pond building business with my brother, who came down here from New York. And we were building ponds and fish tanks and stuff like that. And then someone said to us, hey, can you guys do gardens? And of course, being from New York, we're like, yeah, we can do gardens. And we went to Google or the internet at that time, and we started looking up gardens and Zen gardens and vegetable gardens. And we're like, we can do this. And we started doing that. As the recession hit and we started making less money, I wanted to get back into the public health aspect of things. So I went to one of the local community health centers here, which is the Belafonte Center in Liberty City, and I asked them if they needed someone to work the environmental program, because they had a garden and it wasn't doing too good. So I said, hey, I can do some programming with your kids and so forth. And they brought me on as the environmental specialist, and at that time I was doing my master gardener training with the University of Florida. And so it gave me the opportunity to apply some of the knowledge I had, and also to work with children in the neighborhood and just show them something different. Wow, that caterpillar crystal is right on that. Thing right there. Anyway, so I did that for about 3 years, and we helped build up their program. And we started thinking. I met my business partner James, who was the horticultural director at Rikers Island, and he moved down here. And then we started Urban GreenWorks. I try to take a lot of the public health principles that I've learned and acquired over the years, and I try to apply that to community food security here in an urban inner city setting. We look at all the different things from a public health perspective that affect health in America, especially with minority populations. And the African American population suffers from the worst kind of diseases that Americans suffer from. So if Americans suffer from high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, the African American population is then in the top percentile of those affected by that. So what I look at is what are the different things that affect the eating habits of the folks in the inner cities. One of the things we did a community food security study, which we looked at all the food places in the neighborhood that serve food, and the USDA was classifying it as a food desert. We wanted to know if that was true. The USDA defines a food desert as a community that is both low income and has low access to affordable produce and whole foods. Low access means that residents have to travel more than 1/2 mile to reach a supermarket, and at least 100 households do not have access to a vehicle. In the United States, an estimated 2.1 million households live in urban food deserts and do not have access to a vehicle. At least 33% of Liberty City residents have to travel 1 mile or more to reach the closest supermarket, and at least 100 households do not have access to a car. All right, it's kind of weird watching myself. Anyway, so stop there because we ended at food access, and that's in essence the emphasis about Urban GreenWorks started at. Initially we started as a garden to help, as a small community garden, and then we wanted to help mothers in the community who were losing children due to violent deaths. And we started as a little memorial garden, and then we started planting plants for these mothers to use as medicinal plants. Yeah, we had a lot of people who were coming, and for instance, a mother would come and she just had a baby. She'd say, you know what, I can't lactate. What do you do? So I'm like, well, parsley. So we started just offering stuff. We didn't want to be like a doctor or something like that because we can't, but we know we had a certain knowledge of stuff and a knowledge of plants. And then every day that we spent there, new plants kept on popping up. So then just reinforced that attitude that these plants are here for us to use for some reason. And we'd find weeds, and next thing you know, I'm looking at this for breast cancer or something like that. Like there's a weed called pokeweed, and a bird poops out and leaves in our farm every time. And then my wife, who's a herbalist, she takes that and she takes the root and she makes a salve that women can put on their breast, and it helps with breast cancer. So all of these things just started popping up, and we started seeing the different uses of the food and of the plants that we had. So we wanted folks to see, I didn't want to change people's diet or change people's attitudes towards food. I just wanted to give them the opportunity to be able to make the change if they wanted to. So we tried to engage them by first finding out what they want. What do you want? You know, because one of the things that happen is people assume just because you're a minority, you're going into a minority community, be it that you're black, Hispanic, Latino, whatever, that you're accepted. You're not. I don't talk like the residents in the city, and I may look the same color, but I don't look like them, and they see it. So they see me as an outsider. And part of the thing you have to do is you have to build up that repertoire or that goodwill with them to show that you're there to do good works. And so as we build up that good works, which Anita helps, it helps us to get an idea as to what is truly troubling the people that we're here to serve. And we try to stay away from going in and creating a project. So like a lot of people come and they get a grant, they do a farmer's market, and they go into a neighborhood, oh, that neighborhood needs it, and they go and they do the farmer's market, and then it doesn't work, and they're like, oh, well, we went there, we did a farmer's market, we did a community garden, nobody used it, so we're not going to do it again. We don't do that. We're not going to do a project in the community if the community isn't engaged in doing it themselves. So we can design it for you, and we can set it up, and we can give you all of the resources, but you have to take the initiative to want to do it yourself, because only when the residents of the community take the initiative to change their community will they actually have an impact, or does the project have an impact on the community itself. The people have to buy into what they're doing, not what you're doing. So we're always adapting to these different changes, and we're always including residents into what we do as an organization, because if we don't, then our job is ineffective in the first place. So a lot of our residents, we have a resident board, and they come and they work with Anita, first of all, on a daily basis. And she gets an idea as to what they need. She does a daily activity log. And I look at that at the end of the year, normally in the summer, and I'm amazed by what I see. And every time I do those, the numbers of the logs for the whole year, and I start analyzing the numbers, the problems just start popping up. So like last year when I did it, we were all just about food. But then Anita was talking to people who had their elderly parents were in a nursing home and they were getting abused. And every day they have to go and deal with that, and they couldn't deal with it, so it's creating a stress in them. We had another couple, or another student who, a student in school, but everybody else in his family is a criminal or messed up with the law or something. He can't concentrate, he can't focus on his schoolwork. So how does he deal with that? And then his grades start suffering or so like that, so he needs an outlet to come back to. He comes to the garden, he talks to Anita about maybe doing some science experiments and just getting away. So there's just a lot of different issues. If you talk to people in our community, our partners, they'll tell you that majority of the people in our neighborhoods are walking around with mental illness and don't know it. So, and you see it sometimes, and so part of that is you have to deal with this aspect as well. Then you have lack of education, poor housing, just a pile of issues that are piling up all the time with people. So we try to address that through the access of food. And the idea is to use food to open up the discussion in terms of what are creating the problems in your neighborhood. So we have roundtables where we bring people together, and based around food, we talk about the problems, and we talk about how we could address these problems. We also work with different populations to get them out. Like Marty was talking about working with children and having to deal with this idea of slavery. Major problem we had, people didn't want to, first of all, they didn't want to clean up. If you're doing environmental work, no cleanup because now you're a garbage man. And then they don't want to farm because now you're a sharecropper. And all of that stigma is built up on slavery, and all of these other stereotypes that are piled on top of us come to light. When the fact is, I try to tell them, like, we're the first ones who were falling from the earth. We're the ones who taught everybody else how to eat. We're the ones where you see how the world is eating, that's because of us. You know, when we were farming fish in Egypt and in Nubia, that was us. People hate tilapia. Tilapia is from Africa. I'm an aquaculturist in the state of Florida. It's an African fish straight from the Nile. Just because they farm it bad in China doesn't mean it's a bad fish for you. So the idea is that, and then if you look in the Bible, when Jesus was Then he had the 2 loaves of bread and the 2 fishes, 2 tilapia he gave. 2 tilapia, the only fish you could throw in the water, and in a month it would feed a whole village. So we have to show people how to just change around your idea of where food comes from and what your part of it, what your contribution to food is. So even when we have our gardening classes, the first thing we do is a reconnection back to your ancestry. Be it whoever you are. How did you connect to plant gardening? Was it your great-grandmother? Was it your grandmother? Was it an uncle who took you out to the garden? But reconnect back to your ancestry and back to the soil. You can go on and we can tell you that there's microbes in the soil, happy microbes. That when you put your hands in it, that they get into your body and they make you happy and they alleviate a lot of stress. So part of this is where the therapy aspect comes from. So we want to engage, continue to engage people, and continue to get their history and get them to involve, to understand where their history and their connection to the soil is from and where there's the food. It's the one thing I always tell people that you can control. There's a lot of things in life you can't control, but you control what you put in your mouth. My 4-year-old son shows me that every day. When he was a baby, I used to be able to shove anything in his mouth. I had to eat it. You know what I mean? Now he just shuts it down. And yeah, because it's the only thing he can control with me right now. It's like, don't gotta eat, don't gotta listen to you, I want to eat. And that's what we all have. We have the ability to put the thing in our body, in our mouth, that is going to heal us and make our body good. And part of that too is understanding the value of the food. I used to be a vegan for 12 years. And everybody used to look at me when I was in healthcare like, man, you're so thin and you're so lean and muscle tone and this and that. And all of my parents should look like you. And when I did my level test and I started looking at my acidity was off the charts. It was like 5.7, right? Our pH is supposed to be in the 7s, just like the plants, just like the fish, just like the water, just like the soil. Everything has a pH that brings it to a natural place where it's disease-free. Ours only is in 7.3 range. Get to that state, all the anti-free radicals and stuff that come into your body that try to form cancer, they don't affect you anymore because they can't. Your body's healed up against it. Same thing with plants. When we deal with gardening, we have to show how you have to put the nutrients into those plants, the right ones. Because not all plants require the right nutrients, just like not all people require the same kind of food. And that's the problem with our food in America. We all eat the same garbage. But we all are from different places, and each person has a different need requirement. And we're not looking at these need requirements. So, in essence, whenever you eat, you can think you're eating healthy, right? But if you look at food access in the States, we're not. All the food that we're eating, we really don't get the nutrients from it. So we talk about organic, we talk about commercial. Commercial foods, again, what, about 20%, if not less, of the nutrients that you get out of the foods. Organic, you get about 40-45%, a little bit more. On top of that, your body isn't taking in the nutrients because it's always constantly fighting to catch up and to stay healthy. Get your body back into balance, get the pH levels back into place. Start adding stuff that's cleaning out your cells. We have moringa, which grows on our farm. The reason why I grow moringa is because moringa is a plant that when you eat it, it cleans you out at the cellular level. It gets into your body, cleans out all the garbage. It allows your cells to start reabsorbing nutrients again. So now the 50% of the nutrients you have gotten from commercial greens that you're not absorbing, you're actually absorbing. So all of those vegetables and stuff that you think you're eating as a vegan, you're not getting any nutritional value from it if you don't clean up your body first. You can eat vegan all you want, you can be fat, and so on. That's why you see a lot of heavyweight people who are vegan, because they're not getting the nutrients. Their body's unclean up. They've got all the garbage in their body that they ate before. So we show folks that you have to take the initiative to help yourself, right? We'll give you the resources. It's our job. Our job is to do all the research, do all the planning, to show you how to do it. But you, especially as young people, have to then start taking that initiative, clean out your body, help yourself, and then that's where the access part starts. Right? Don't depend on people to give you your food, man. Don't depend on people to cook food for you and put it into your body. Depend on yourself, because your body is individually, chemically different than everybody else's. So yes, you put all the same stuff in, but if you're not focusing on what your body needs, then the ability to have food matters nothing. Let me don't get on and get off philosophical with you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to Anita, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what she does. The Chew, if anyone knows the Chew, it's part of one of the CBS shows, and they came out to the farm about 2 years ago, and they did a little spot on us.
lot of things going on in the garden, so you're right on time.
Urban GreenWorks is an organization here in Miami, and we work with neglected land and turn it into a productive site for the community where people have access to affordable organic fruit.
It's fresh and I get to pick it. I love this place.
I love vegetables, and it's so expensive in the stores, especially for the senior citizens. We need all the vitamins we can get.
To be able to drive down the street and have complete access for less than $1, that's like the best thing that can ever happen for this community.
Not only does Cerasee Farm provide wholesome organic food, but it's a training ground for marginalized individuals.
There's mustard greens all over the place if somebody wants to harvest this patch right here.
So we transform land while transforming their lives.
If it's strong still, we're gonna stand it up flat.
The program is called Mustard Seed. Many of the folks we deal with, either they're coming out of prison or they're in a drug rehab, and the women start interacting with the community.
You can come through here whenever you want. I'll give you a tour.
And they become actively engaged in the entire management of this farm.
Cut like about 12 of them, and you put the 12 in a bunch. In the past, I was involved in a drug addiction, which led me down a criminal experience. It's like a bad roller coaster ride, so to speak. And I said, you know, I want to live. So that's when I entered into, the program to seek help. And that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
I just had to take a look at my life and where I was going, and I really wasn't going nowhere forward. I had to make a choice. I had to take charge of my life
And take responsibility for the mess that I made.
Here we go. This is a twin, okay? We got two here. When I walk into the garden each and every morning, it's like everything else is left behind the gates.
As I began to plant, I learned how to weed out things in my life that should not have been around me, that I allowed around me, that stunted my growth and that didn't allow me to breathe. I want you to plant it just like you want to be planted. And when I say that, to be able to withstand the storm, that's truly life and healing in a garden.
The garden plays a real important part in my recovery. I'm coming up on 2 years clean and sober, which is like a miracle. To interact, to give back, to show love, to receive respect. Look, you can see all the love of the white.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful experience, and it's something that's going to be a part of my life for a long time.
What I learned in the garden was a new way to live. It gave me a sense of responsibility. It made me feel good about me. When I really look at it, I'm just like a plant. And as long as I continue to nurture myself and to do the positive things in life, I'll make it.
Hi everybody, again my name is Anita and I'm from New Jersey. This film that you just watched here, that was about 5 years ago. In 2013, I relocated to Miami and I had to make a decision to make a change in my life. I had lost my husband to alcoholism and I was very angry and I started making bad decisions. And I started using drugs to suppress my feelings. I became involved in a program called the Mustard Seed Program, where you saw the ladies on the film. And through the Mustard Seed Program, I learned to find myself and build my self-esteem. And I did an internship there, and I had the opportunity to work with women in the treatment center Agape, that were going through exactly what I had gone through. Through restoration in the soil, I was able to process with them. A lot of our problems, or my problem was I had a lot of anger, and anger is a secondary emotion, and we use it in a negative way. We make very bad decisions with it, but when you learn to use it in a positive manner, you get a lot done. You'd be surprised. And when you get in contact with soil and in the garden, there's this, it's a safe haven where there's no right, there's no wrong, and you can be yourself. Anyway, to move fast forward, after a year at Agape's garden, I was transferred to Liberty City, where I became the garden manager. And my connection to the city is outreach. I do a lot of outreach We were given the Community Outreach Award in 2016. And I've also had the opportunity to go to Denver, Colorado, and speak at the American Horticulture Therapy Conference on behalf of Urban GreenWorks. Liberty City, it's a low-income area, and as Roger was saying, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of 55 and older buildings, a lot of people on disability, and there's a lot of veterans that are across the street from the garden that I work with and bring into the garden. There is nowhere close by for them to get anything healthy to eat. So I maintain the garden. We grow a lot of green and a lot of vegetables at affordable rates. Everything is organically grown. We also do a lot of workshops. I work with a lot of children and people, residents that are local. I bring them into the garden. On any given day, as Roger was saying, according to like I have an activity log, people just come in the garden. Sometimes they just need someone to listen to them, or they're going through something. I reveal myself, my story, where I came from and what I went through, and I open up like this trust between me and that person, and they're able to reveal themselves, and it gives me an idea which way to work with them. And like I said, I do restoration, excuse me, through the soil. I also do a lot of educating on healthy eating because everyone is used to fast food and just eating whatever they can eat, and they're not educated in that area as far as locally grown food that we supply at Cerasee Farms. My specialty, though, is horticultural therapy. Women that come directly out of prison or drug treatment or are victims of human trafficking or domestic violence, mental illness, post-traumatic stress disorder. Someone put their hand out and helped me, and it's like I have to give it back. And I bring them into the garden. I teach them responsibility. They start as volunteers. Not everybody makes it. It's not for everybody, They learn to make healthy choices. Their self-esteem builds up in their self-worth. And we prep them so that they can go out into society and become productive members. Like I did, my story. And by the grace of God, I was hired by Urban GreenWorks. I'm a full-time employee today. My life has changed totally. I'm going to be celebrating 6 years clean and sober, which is a miracle. 6 years ago, you could have never told me that. Through horticulture therapy, I've been able to restore my relationship with my family. I have 3 beautiful children. I have integrity today. I have respect for myself. And, this is an ongoing thing. We also, I do markets, farm to markets. I do a market at the Adrian Arts Center, which is located the Performing Arts downtown. We're also making our own products. We had samples out on the table. We make moringa powder, like Roger was mentioning, because in the area where Cerasee Farm is located, there's a lot of elderly and disabled people that suffer from high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, and diabetes. And a lot of that has to do with their diet, what they're eating. They're just eating like nothing but junk, But it was, I appreciate the invitation to be here today and to be able to come up here and share exactly what we do and the impact that we have made on Liberty City and on women in need that have been victimized through the system and other things.
Thank you, Anita. So, just to tie it all together, as it relates to access, what we offer, we do apiary or apiary agriculture, which is agriculture that combines beekeeping with it. We also do aquaculture, because we want to provide enough locally raised fish. We use a recirculating aquaculture system. It's internal. It's completely inside and indoors, and the system is completely controlled, so nothing goes out into the environment. But we can produce enough fish right now in our system at Northwestern High School. Right now we're doing a minimum of 1,600 fish a year. And we're moving to that production so we can provide that to the residents in the community. We can provide we can sell the fish as long as we're not processing it. They have to process it, so we have to sell the fish whole and then they can process it themselves. We also do horticultural therapy. We do what we call eco-agriculture, because agriculture is just not just for people, it's also for the animals and the fish and stuff like that. So we plant, in all of our stuff, we plant food forests first of all, and then in all of our gardens, we plant and we incorporate native hierarchy plants, so canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, and ground covers. This promotes the local wildlife, the local the birds when they're migrating. When we see the change in the seasons, we see that we're doing our job because we see all the birds that come, we see the butterflies, and we also promote the different bees and the different pollinators, the dragonflies. So the idea is to create a holistic approach to health and to agriculture. And it's all about the water, it's about the soil, and it's about the sun. Three basic things that we all need to survive in life. And then we connect those, however we break down the sciences, they're all connected together. And that's what we try to show. We try to show that through the education, and then we try to show that through the inclusion in the activities that we have at Urban GreenWorks. And we allow the individual to make the change themselves. The last thing we do is we started a vegan diet plan now called the Oasis Project, or what we call the 10-day vegan challenge. And we're working with veterans to address PTSD by having them switch off the meal plans and go to a vegan diet. That way it gives them another cause or something to fight for. And it also gives them something with its camaraderie and its unity based on a particular written goal. And we also do that with also underserved residents, because the idea, as I mentioned, is you can have access to food. We all have access to food. Is it the right food? I'm like, everybody has a Publix or with Dixie or Presidente or whatever, or they call it Walmart, so are you making the right choices when you choose that food for yourself? Are you basing it based on need? Okay, I have 4 kids and I have to get them all their food, it's me alone, and I'm trying to save the buck. When I started eating, I used to pinch a penny on what I eat too, now I don't. And the idea is that we want to show folks that here are all the things that are required of you to live healthy, and all of the ways that you can do that and that you can achieve that. Working within the city limits or working within your neighborhood. But at the end of the day, you have to make the individual choice, just like Anita has to make the individual choice, just like I do as well. So, and I had chips and, did I have breakfast? Chips and coffee? Yeah, and chocolate. So anyway, that's it, thank you.
There's this kind of a misconception when it comes to food choices that that the choice to choose unhealthy food options rests solely with the individual, that it's an individual choice that someone chooses, and that's the only thing that kind of affects that. How do we dispel that and make people understand that it's a larger system at work?
Well, I think education is probably the answer, and whether it's an example of this opportunity to try to educate the next generation of folks, and then what you choose to do when you go into the grocery store, how you choose to eat, whether or not you choose to have a garden or to be part of a community garden that grows some of your own food, so that you know how it's grown, and or make direct relationships with a farm, with the farmers, to where you can go visit the farm, or you can be part of the farm. I think that's how we dispel and quit buying into this the plethora of advertising that's coming at you saying this is all natural, when in fact all natural means nothing. It's an empty, hollow thing to increase corporate profits, and that's where it's at. And we all buy into it, or we all give up our own discretion about choosing what we eat and how we eat and what we choose to support.
But coming from a healthcare background, I can tell you that we're not really interested in your overall health and how you do. As a country, we're really interested in how sick you get because we make more money on you by you being sick. So the sicker you are, the better it is for us as a country and as a healthcare industry in terms of profitability. And that's the problem, is that in America, your health has become the cash cow, right? However, if you're healthy, doctors and stuff don't want to deal with you, but if you're sick, they love you. So the idea is to dispel the myth, like Marty is saying. It's a corporate strategy to actually make more money. There's no organic, really, when you go to a supermarket. I once saw a guy who was selling olive oil to Publix, Whole Foods, and I think it was Winn-Dixie, and he said he each dropped them off 3 different shipments, and they're all the same oil, and they all were packaged differently, from organic to non-organic. So the product is not, you have to just stop looking at the packaging and start looking at what's actually in it. And that's what most people, that's what's been taken away from us institutionally. It's been taken away from us, this ability to choose our own food. And also, as Americans, we have this thing of giving up your rights to choice, because of fear or whatever kind of fear. So the idea is to stop looking at the packaging and then stop having the corporations dictate what's healthy for you. Because the idea is what Marty did. Marty was dictating prices until the chain came too long. We can dictate the prices to the big corporations. We're the ones buying it from them. We just have to have the cojones, if you want to say it enough, to tell them to stop and to get together and say, stop, we're not going to buy from you if you don't change your practices. And even with Whole Foods, who claims that they are local, they're still shopping in South America, so they're not local. So what do you consider local and what do you consider healthy for you is the idea, and to change, to get away from the corporate thing, get away from TV. That isn't there to make you healthy, it's there to make you sick.
And I also think that the way the world is today, everyone is in such a hurry and involved in so much that they don't actually have the time to take the time to process something that's healthy to eat. Everything is fast food, McDonald's, microwave, the convenient way, because we're so involved in everything else, and in the long, we don't look at the long term, later on, the effects that what we eat and how it's going to affect our body, and from children, some of us, we live off of, McDonald's, and, all kids want French fries and all that stuff, so it starts at a young age. And it's important that, the education's there about healthy eating and how it affects the body and how it will affect you later on in life with heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, because what we put in us goes into our blood, and we end up with these diseases. And like Roger said, the healthcare system doesn't want to educate and tell you should eat this and that instead of taking this prescription with this side medication along with this medication, and the next thing you know, you're taking 20 pills for all these ailments that can be cured by just changing your diet with a little bit of education.
And also too, they're trying to tell you that this stuff is hereditary. Anything is hereditary if you have a child. I learned that because I'm now a dad, right? The way I was a month before I had my child or whatever is the way my child has. I passed on. You pass on everything to your child. It's not just what's in your genes. You pass on your mannerisms, your behaviors, your thoughts, the way you feel, your racisms, your whatever insecurities. All of these things are passed on. So they can be also cleaned out the same way. You don't have to have the same thing. Just because your family has a history of diabetes don't mean that you have to succumb to that. That's the medical thinking telling you that's the case. You can cure yourself with this by changing your habits, changing your eating habits, change the way you have your outlook is on life. So also too, it's hard. Like I told you this morning, I had a cup of coffee and 2 packs of chips, and I was killing for those 2 packs of chips. I'm not talking about. So yes, you can talk and you can spew it all you want, but when all of the things are there against you, you have so many other things to do with. You guys are in school, you guys have stress and exams and midterms and friends and social relationships. Cares about food. You just want something that's going to make you feel good until you have to get the next thing in your stomach. And sometimes that's also the focus, and we have to change away from that focus and then think about ourselves and do what's necessary, even though it's hard, to make yourself feel better.
Thank you. So we have a question from the audience. The question is, if we grew all organic food, would we still have enough to sustain the population?
Yes. I'm gonna let Marty handle that too, but quickly, small farmers are the biggest purveyors of clean environment, healthy eating in the entire world. Matter of fact, small farms sequester more oxygen more carbon out of the air than anything else. Plus, we're diverse, we don't monocrop, so we're not destroying the soil as well, we're preserving the soil. We only have 18 inches of soil to preserve, blessings. You have to also diversify your crops and create diversity. If you look at urban GreenWorks, when we started our urban farming project, we used a model from Europe called farmscaping, and it's where communities would get together and each person would decide what they're going to plant in their backyard or their front yard or whatever. And then at the end of the harvest, then the entire community will come together and they'll share that harvest together. So the community was also always fed. They're looking at doing that same model now in America. For profit, yes, but it's called agri-hoods, right? So they're creating neighborhoods based around 5-acre farms. They're charging $300,000 for a home, but then there's a payment fee that goes into supporting the farm, and then you get food out of it. So the ideas are there, and the methodology is there. It's just how you use it and what it's for.
You know, people used to ask me in debates, well, how are we going to feed the world? I mean, you know, you talked about more sustainable production, how are we going to feed the world? And actually, I think that the way we're talking about organic farming will be the way to feed the world. Right now, what we've done is destroy countries' ability to save their own seeds by sending them genetically engineered seeds, to the benefit of agrochemical industry, Monsanto, by the biotech industry. That's paid for with my tax dollars. We're as opposed to teaching, other in developing countries, teaching the residents there, the farmers there, how to save seed, how to compost, how to restructure soil, how to really farm sustainably so that they're more resilient in the times of us destroying the planet, through climate change, and how they can recover. So I actually think it's the only way to feed the world in the future. That right now we're dependent upon exporting, corn, which is non-sustainable, soybeans, which are non-sustainable, and helping other countries destroy their environments locally to the benefit of typically developed countries where the products end up at a cheaper price.
There's also an organization, the Urban, the Urban Oasis Project, where they are actually going out to anyone who requests a garden in their backyard. And if you don't have the space, they're bringing the wooden raised beds, and they're actually making organic gardens at houses so that people have access to their own right in their backyard. And nothing like growing your own and picking your own with a personal touch with what you're eating, because then you know what's going into your system.
Thank you. So what advice can you give to an individual who wants to make a positive food change in their community? Like, where did you guys start? How did you get to where you are? And, what tips can you give?
I want to echo one of the things Roger said, made some notes, because for us, when I talk about gleaning, it opened up the idea, it opened up the doors to a community. Here, and they go, I don't know, what do you got? And you go, no, it's here. Here's leftover, whatever, squash, potatoes, and let's tell you how to cook the squash, because people have lost their ability to cook. So, becoming part of the community, we never did something for the community, we did something of the community, and Roger mentioned that too, community ownership. When we put in community gardens, it came from discussions within the community, and then they came up with the idea of saying, what would be really nice if we had a community garden. It wasn't us coming into the community saying, have we got the solution for you? Here's what we're going to do to solve your problem. It has to come from them to have ownership within the community. So I think recognizing the power of community development, of the community themselves becoming more more organized, more, knowing each other's neighbors and moving together is the way to do it.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I know that you guys have another class to get to probably. I want to thank our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause.